everyone. Can you hear me? So, today I'll be talking about digital distractions, and I'm going to be talking from the educational technology specialist perspective, the researcher's perspective, but also as a teacher who has to deal with the realities of the classroom on a regular basis. So, I think we all agree that technology has changed teaching and learning for good. For early years, for primary and secondary education, higher education, language learning, inclusion, and more. And the internet, this giant network that brings together billions of minds, has the potential for self-directed learning, participatory cultures, innovation, creativity. So the possibilities are enormous and unprecedented. However, the technologies that give us such potential are also chronically distracting us. Teachers complain that students are on their phones all the time, doing Facebook and Instagram in class. Parents complain that it is very difficult for students to be focused. What do students say? In a relatively recent study, it was published in 2016 and surveyed 700 college students in 26 states of America. So this study showed that a total of 97% of students use their devices in class for non-class purposes every day. 63% do so because they want to fight boredom and stay connected. And 89% of these students admit that using their devices in class for non-class purposes distracts them. Now, one of the main reasons the students cited was because they want to stay connected. Some people refer to this connectivity, to this constant need to stay connected as an addiction. But this is a medical term, and to date, we don't have evidence to support such classification. A more accurate term is FOMO, fear of missing out, which is a form of anxiety that borders on obsession or compulsion. Now, the fast-paced virtual world is exciting, is very exciting because it offers instant gratification and pleasure and stimulation and feedback. And this is one of the reasons why people are so attached to their devices. It is very important to take this into consideration when we look into solutions. It is now hardly surprising to see people walking down the street looking at their phones. Some call them digital residents because they spend a big part of their lives online, they live online. Others call them the distracted generation, or even smartphone zombies. People who have their eyes glued to the screen, worried about missing out, feeling uncomfortable after some minutes without stimulation and connectivity. Whichever term you use, they are far from being just labels because they capture the way we feel about this connectivity or over-connectivity, if you like, that has an impact on people's and students' behavior and learning. Research suggests that it takes an average of 23 minutes to get back into the swing of things after you've been distracted. So distractions are concerning, and school authorities are concerned. They are very concerned, and some school authorities take a reactive approach to the issue, and they ban phones from the classroom. It's happening. In France, phones have been banned from schools. Also, some schools in the UK, Spain, Greece, but also in the US and Canada are thinking of enacting similar policies. So these policies are gaining momentum, and there is a constant debate to ban phones or not to ban phones. By the way, what do you think? Do you think that phones should be banned? Hands up if you think that phones should not be banned from the classroom. Great, thank you. So there is a constant debate, and what added fuel to this debate was a 2015 study in 4 cities in England that showed that schools that banned mobile phones saw an average of 6.4 increase in standardized test results for low-performing students. The anti-phone lobby naturally jumped on these results and used them as evidence that phones should be banned. But in doing so, they totally ignored the last point that the researchers made in the conclusion. However, these findings do not discount the possibility that mobile phones could be a useful learning tool if their use is properly structured. So, in other words, it is not the phones that are the problem, but the way we use them. So, my question is, what have we done to make the way we use phones in education in the classroom properly structured? What have we done to bring in, along with the technology, skills and competencies to manage these technologies well? You see, these skills are not a byproduct of using technology. Students don't have them by default. We need to help them develop these skills. And these are 21st century skills, and they should be part of every digital literacy framework. So managing digital distractions is a skill that students need to develop in the context of learning. And now on focusing. Research suggests that the ability to focus may be more important than someone's IQ or the socio-economic background they grew up in determining academic success. So there is nothing like getting in the zone, nothing like focusing. However, what are our perceptions of focused students? How can we tell that students are focused? Are these students focusing on the lesson? What do you think? Hands up if you think that these students may be focusing on the lesson. Okay, some hands. Great. So many educators I connect with share the same or similar perceptions of what it means to be focused. First, eye contact. Second, no phones. However, does this mean that people are really focused? In some cultures, eye contact may be perceived as disrespectful. On the other hand, just because someone is looking at you doesn't really mean that they are paying attention. So, many educators would say that these students are not focusing on the lesson. What about these students? Are these students focusing on the lesson just because they have eye contact with a teacher? This is clearly a teacher-centered classroom where the teacher is providing all the knowledge and the students are supposed to be receiving it. This model, this learning and teaching model, is now redundant because all the knowledge in the world can be available online, is available online. So we need to be facilitators of knowledge and facilitators of learning. And what I'm trying to say is that as our roles are changing, our perceptions of what it means to be focused should change as well. And now on solutions. I'm not going to tell you what is right or wrong. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to share some techniques based on my research and classroom experience, but also invite you to experiment and also to involve students. See students as part of the solution, not as part of the problem. It is a myth that students don't care about their distractions. I give guest lectures where I work, and I can confidently say that students are concerned about digital distractions. They just don't know how to handle them. So, number one, debunk the myth of multitasking. Students tend to believe that they can multitask, that they can text and listen at the same time. But there is no such thing as multitasking. When people say they multitask, what they are actually doing is something called continuous partial attention, where the brain switches back and forth between tasks. Now, this is less serious if tasks are routine. I can drive and chew gum, no problem at all, but it can have significant implications for learning. So, start the conversation, and there are plenty of videos and materials online to support you. Number two, do not ban devices, teach procedures. If you ban devices, then you are missing out on the devices as learning tools, and also you are depriving students of the opportunity to develop the skill to manage these devices in the context of learning. So share with your students, promote self-regulation techniques, and ask students to use these self-regulation techniques at home as well, because distractions follow us, as we said. So what I ask my students to do, to try, is to deactivate notifications from their laptops, because their laptops and our laptops, our desktops, should be our workspaces. Our phones are a little bit of everything, socializing, learning, you name it. But our laptops should be where we work and do research. Now, for some people, it works when the phone is out of sight, in the pocket or in the bag, but the vibration should be deactivated, because this also can be distracting. For me and my students, what works is we put the phone in plane mode, facing down. And this is because some people, including myself, we don't wear a watch, so we use the phone to check the time. So if the phone is in plane mode, we can check the time as much as we want. So another technique is the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of focused work, followed by 5 minutes of a break that students can use as they want. The times can vary, of course, depending on your preferences, but the idea here, the rationale, is that students are more likely to stay focused if they work in short chunks. Now, some of you may be thinking, 5 minutes in the classroom for students to text? This is just a suggestion, of course, and in my experience, it does work. Because, let's be realistic, they will do it anyway, secretly. And if we are to accept FOMO as the new reality, fear of missing out, then we need to fight fire with fire. We need to give them what they want, but with clear boundaries. Believe me, they are going to appreciate, and they are more likely to stay focused if they know that they will be online very shortly. So number three, make your class engaging, because the best classroom management tool is engaging lessons. For students, research suggests that they can only take up to 30 minutes of continuous lecture. Anything additional should be hands-on. So use multimedia to engage your students. Get them out of their seats, mingling, problem solving, working in groups. Flip the classroom so that you can use the class time for project-based learning. Nobody wants to sit down and listen to a lecture for an hour or 2 hours. Number 4. Are there any apps to help you stay focused? This is a little bit ironic because it's like asking, how can I use technology to regulate technology? My answer to this is that the best app is students' brain. Students are more likely to stick to their decisions if the willpower comes from within. However, considering that FOMO is a compulsive behavior, then external help from an app wouldn't hurt either. So I'm going to recommend 2 apps, but I need to make it clear that I'm not promoting the apps commercially. I haven't been paid to promote the apps. And of course, there are plenty of good apps on the market, of other good apps. So the first one is called Forest. I think it ticks all the boxes. It rewards, it's very simple to use, and particularly good looking. So every time you want to stay focused, you just pop into the app and you plant a virtual tree. Your tree only grows if you are focused and you don't use other apps. If you get distracted and you check Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp, then your tree dies. Or to be more precise, you kill it. It is not free, but it's very, very affordable. I think it's less than £2. So the next app is called Freedom. This is a more advanced app. This app blocks the websites and the apps that distract you across all your devices. So you set up a block list with the websites and applications that you want, and the app does it for you. The advantage here is that you can still use the internet, you can still use Google Docs or other applications that don't distract you. So I'm not so sure that I agree with the name. I don't think this is the right representation, Freedom, because it suggests that we are slaves of technology, and I don't think that this is the right representation, because we are not passive users of technology when we try to regulate the way we use technology. We are very, very active users of technology. So that aside, and the fact that you have to pay for a monthly subscription, which is not expensive at all, but still, this is a great app. So, whatever technique you decide to use, remember that education is still the best tool to prepare people to function in highly complex environments, such as the world that we live in. So with this in mind, I would like to close this keynote presentation with something for you to take away. Ban devices from your classroom and you protect your students from distractions for a day. Educate students about digital distractions and you empower them for a lifetime in the class and beyond. Thank you very much. Here are my contact details, my email, my website, my Twitter. Please connect, follow me, I'll follow you back. And here are the references if you want to dig deeper. I believe that the slides will be made available. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia.